Hi guys, and welcome to another Is It Worth It? And it is about time I brought you an Is It Worth It for the Light Mark 6C. This was the gift tank that was given out at Christmas, well, last year now, a couple of months ago. And maybe this review should be considered the Light Mark 6C, should I keep it or sell it, as opposed to is it worth it? But just in case you're watching this video in the future and Wargaming have put this into the gift shop, well, this video is here to help you decide whether or not you want to actually buy this tank. It is a British Tier 2 light tank. The Light Mark 6C is actually a Vickers Mark 6C, and it was one of the main battle tanks for the British Army, pretty much from 1936 up till, believe it or not, 1941. And even though this is a very little known variant of the Vickers Light, it was one of the tanks that saw combat pretty much in most theaters during World War II. Initially, it was in service in the British colonies and saw a lot of work in India. At the start of World War II, it was primarily used in the Mediterranean theater. It was involved in quite a few battles around Crete, Malta. It was also used in the Northern African campaign, and it even saw a little bit of service on mainland Europe. So it is a pretty common tank that I, to be honest, didn't know much about until I started reading up on it. They were phased out in 1941. In fact, this is probably one of the last variants of the tank, and it was in action right up till about 1941. It's a Vickers tank, and it is armed with a Vickers 50mm machine gun. And that's pretty much the gun you get in-game. So let's talk about the tank properly, now that the history is out of the way. As a free tank, I'm not a fan of a lot of the free tanks. They're okay, but this is another tank that is okay. The biggest question for me when I was playing this tank is, would I prefer to drive this tank over the T7 combat car? And the question is, yes. Two free tanks, both light tier 2 premiums. Would I rather it over the T7? Definitely. T1E6, would I prefer it over the T1E6? Yeah, I think I would. What about the Tetrarch? Well, I haven't really reviewed the Tetrarch. That's the next review I'm planning for, but I'm afraid the Tetrarch gets the nod over the Mark 6C in this case. Other Tier 2 light tanks in the game, we've got the T2 Light, which definitely needs to be compared against this tank. And we've got the PZ38H, which I've done in a previous review, and I'm not going to cover it because even though it's a tier 2 light tank, it plays more like a heavy tank, so I'm not even going to bother comparing it. So we've got a lot of tier 2 light tanks up here, and I think it is worth comparing them. And where does the Light 6C appear on hit points? Well, it's pretty standard, 150 hit points. Only the Tetrarch has less, and only the T1E6 has more. So hit points, nothing special. Weight limit, it is the lightest of all the tier 2 premium tanks. So engine power, yeah, definitely one of the weak points of this tank. It only has an 88 horsepower engine compared to pretty much better engines in every other tank. However, it is only pushing 5.4 tons, fully upgraded. And what this means is, even though it's got low engine power, it's pushing a very light tank. It does get up to 52.5 kilometers per hour, which is better than most of the other tier 2 premium tanks. 38 on the T7, 48 on the T1E6, 64 on the Tetrarch. Makes the Tetrarch far faster, and then of course you've got the winner at 72 kilometers an hour on the T2 Light. But it's a pretty quick tank. The issue with the 88 horsepower is that it takes a while to reach this speed. So while it can do 52.5, you're pretty much only going to be reaching that speed when you are heading downhill. Or you need a very flat run up to reach it. So here we are on Provence, and I've got a beautiful downhill slope ahead of me, so we are going to pick up some speed. And as you can see, quite slow to accelerate, but as soon as we hit the downhill, we are up to 63 kilometers an hour. We're going to go around this corner, and we tip! We are driving on 2 tracks, or on 1 track even. But we are maintaining our speed. We are doing 50 kilometers an hour. But as soon as we hit any upslope whatsoever, we are down. And look at this, I don't even have the engine power to climb up this slight rise. So even though we had a very good run up, we could not get up that rise. So I need to look for a less severe slope. And as you can see, we're doing 10 kilometers, 11 kilometers. Look how slow this thing putters up. And I'm going to try and get up again. And I don't have the engine power. All I want to do is get up onto that little shelf, but I have to give up because it is taking forever. So I try another attempt, and there we go. So along the flat or downhill, this is a fast tank, but because of the low engine power, if you encounter any hills or upslopes, you are going to have issues. The traverse speed on the vehicle is the worst of all the Tier 2 premiums. It only has 40 traverse speed, or 40 degrees per second, and that means that when you are trying to turn this tank, especially at speed, you take a very wide turning circle. Armor, well, like all the T2 Tier 2 light tanks, the armor is nothing special. Pretty much everything will pen you, and pretty much everything with an autoloader will kill you very quickly. The benefit of that is because you are also an autoloader, you can kill pretty much most other Tier 2 light tanks with absolutely no problems. We will talk about the gun in a moment. The turret traverse speed is okay. Again, it's not the worst. That belongs to the T7 combat car, but it's not the best. The other 3 tanks are better. The view range is something that surprised me about this tank. The view range is 300, which is better than any of the other Tier 2 light tanks. It makes this a viable scout. If you put binocs on this tank, you will get your view range up to about 350, maybe a little bit more. And it is a very viable scout. However, the gun and the low penetration on the gun, which you only have 25 millimeters of penetration, sort of counteracts the view range. So while you can spot a lot of tanks before they spot you, the problem is the gun drops penetration over distance, and it is very unlikely that you're going to be able to hurt enemy tanks at distance with your gun. So you might be able to spot them, but you're not going to be able to hurt them. The signal range is not bad. It's 375, and other than the Tetrarch, it is the second best signal range for all the Tier 2 premiums. So stats wise, this tank is not bad. So I have mentioned the pretty good view range for a Tier 2 light tank, and the fact it has decent signal range, and that makes it a viable scout, and we'll put it through the usual scouting test here on Malinovka, and here we go. So if you're familiar with my videos, you know pretty much what I'm going to be doing. So we've got a slight downhill run here, which means I can get my speed up. Unfortunately, one of my friendly tanks nudges me. But yeah, the ground resistance isn't great on this tank either. So rough ground, and we slow right down. I hang back. I reckon I'm safe enough to shoot. I've got enough bushes between me and the enemy. And because I don't have sixth sense, I pull back anyway. And it looks as if I was spotted. Someone has taken shots at me, but I should have re-stealthed by now. And we're going to head up to the spotting bush. So we spotted a T-18. I pull back again. Got two bushes between me and him, so I should be fairly safe. Spotted an AT-1. Look at all these tanks I am now spotting now that my binocs have kicked in. So this T-18 is starting to worry me, but for some reason he's advancing side on. I've got a possible shot on him as if he kept turning, but he dies before I need to open fire. So it should be safe to advance. So pull forward again, let my binocs kick in. And again, we are spotting tanks. T7. Doesn't last very long. Chini. Don't have shots on him. So I'm just going to put it on ×2 here. Enemy tanks on the 0 line. But not spotting anything, so I decide to move forward again. And then a light 6C appears to my left. We should be safe to shoot him. And there we go. I'm on a reload, unfortunately, so I can't help the other light 6C versus the BT-2. So, not worth giving away my position by taking a blind shot at him. So, Chini over there. Can't tell whether or not I had penning shots on him. But my team are starting to advance. So, I'm going to let them. Okay, they haven't spotted anything. So I figure it's safe to advance. T-57 has been spotted. I can pen him, just about. So we don't do a lot of damage, but it was an orange reticule. Enemy T-18, I'm not going to bother firing at from this distance. I'm just going to keep moving forward. T-18 dies. So I decide to hang in this bush. But I've been spotted. So BT-2 takes out my engine. I am dead. But I should have stealthed by now.
The engine's fixed, but it's not going to give us any speed.
So I do not want to give away my camo, because now BT-2 is still looking for me. I've repaired the engine. And now I'm going to advance up to the bush in front of me. Eventually. BT-2 just killed a Leica tractor, so I need to try and spot him. Leave it on ×2. Binocs and camo net are back on. So our team are doing pretty well on the other flank, but it's the BT-2 I'm worried about. Panzerjäger decides to advance. I'm waiting to see if the BT-2 is going to open fire, but there we go. We've spotted the BT-2, and we can pen him, even at distance. Okay, I'm out of ammo. So I decide to chase him down. We are capping. And then an enemy tank starts capping us, and look how slow this tank is to respond. The ground resistance is absolutely awful. I'm trying to turn, trying to get back to cap. So I'm just going to speed it up. BT2 comes in to prevent the cap and dies. And I'm just trying to get back to cap. But thankfully, we win through capping just a millisecond before the enemy team managed to draw the game. So the results from that match show we detected 8 enemy tanks, damaged 4 and destroyed 1. We did 666 damage upon detecting. So yes, the Light 6C is a viable scout. I have been doing this tank a bit of an injustice because, as you can see, my crew are only at the moment 87%. And I really would like to play this tank more, get the crew up to 100% and give you a full review, because I don't believe you can review any tank properly until you have a 100% crew in it. But I don't play this tank often enough to do that. And that leads me on to one of the other issues with the tank. This is a light tank. It is a premium tank. And what are you going to be training a crew for? Well, let's take a look at the other light tanks. The Tier 1 is a medium tank. It's not a light tank. We have to go to Tier 2 before we find our first light tank, which is the Cruiser Mark III. We've got the Cruiser Mark IV, who's also a light tank at Tier 3. We've got the Covenanter, another light tank at Tier 4. We've got the Crusader, a light tank at Tier 5. And then we move on to medium tanks. So there are no later game light tanks in the British tiers. So the highest tier you are going to be training a crew for is the Crusader or maybe a Covenanter. And you've got to ask yourself the question, why do you want to train up another light crew? Maybe you could train up a light crew for a different tank and take the 20% XP hit when you transfer them to a tank of a different type. But you've only got 3 crew members. You've got a commander, a gunner, and a driver. The commander also doubles as the radio operator and the loader. So it's not a good crew trainer. In addition to that, one of the things I haven't mentioned in my low-tier tank reviews so far when I'm talking about crews are low-tier tanks generally earn you less XP. I mean, it's a low-tier game. You're going to be doing less damage, you're going to be doing less spotting damage, and you're going to get a low XP total even if you have a good game. As that with Accelerate Crew Training, as that XP goes into crew training, that low XP total is going to mean your crew advances very slowly, and that's an issue with most of the low tier premium tanks. You're going to have to play a heck of a lot of games in this tank in order to advance the crew, hence I'm not at 100% yet, unless you're willing to spend gold in order to convert a crew to 100% to begin with. The gun on this tank isn't bad. What I like about this gun is the fact that you can actually hurt some enemy tanks with it. Unlike the T7 combat car, which I'm going to bring up the gun here. It's another autoloader machine gun, but if you look at the average penetration on the T7 combat car, it's 22. The average penetration on the Light 6C is 25. It doesn't seem like a huge difference, but at low tiers that makes a big difference. It's a big difference between being able to kill a T18 and not being able to kill a T18. This tank has the maneuverability to flank T18s. Not all the time, depends on the map, but it's possible to do, and it is possible to kill heavily armored tanks in this little Tier 2 Premium. The average damage at 9 isn't bad, and when you consider the fact you've got 40 shells doing 9 damage in one clip, that's quite a lot of burst damage potential. The dispersion is 5.52, which accuracy-wise is not great, but this gun, because it's got such low penetration, you are not going to be shooting at very many targets at distance anyway, and because you're firing so many shots, you will hit the target, but you're very unlikely to penetrate them at distance. The aim time is excellent, and it's not a bad gun. I quite like it. So it is time to wrap up the review with a game that shows all the strengths and weaknesses of this tank in one game. And we are here on Provence. It's a tank, or it's a map you're going to see a lot of in this tank, because it is a low tier map, and this tank only sees tier 2s. But we are going to go. And again, if you're familiar with my previous videos, you'll know exactly what I'm about to do. So because I have already determined that this is a tank with decent view range and a pretty good gun, providing you pick and choose your targets, I'm going to head to my usual spot, a spot I get a lot of ace tankers from. Now this is not an ace tanker game because I've already gotten the ace tanker in this particular tank, but we move to this bush, we sit, we let our binocs and camo net kick in, and let the spots commence. So a light 6C is a tank I can hurt, so I decide to open fire, do 2/3 of his damage, another light 6C over here, so I expend what's left of my clip on him, and pull back. So 18-second reload. Knock down the other tree just to see if anyone is aiming at this rock, but no sign yet. So, enemy light 6C is advancing, so I pull back behind the rock. He has proxy spotted me, so I've got to time this. I've got to wait for him to nearly die, pop out, shoot, kill, and pull back in before anyone else returns fire. So, enemy light 6C, another tank I can hurt, has been spotted. So let's pop out, see if we can get a shot or two. But he goes stealth, and I'm still on a reload, so I decide, yeah, I'm not going to bother. He could have moved by now. It's been too long. My voice is starting to break a little bit, and that's probably because I've made so many videos today. I've been talking for so long, so apologies for that. So, light 6C is down, and this is why I love this rock. I can cover the approach to any tanks trying to flank us with relative safety. M2 light just took a shot at me, so I pulled back into cover. So FTAC is a tank I can hurt, and we single clip him. So you've got to prioritize your targets. So, I've been spotted, lots of fire coming in on my rock. So I'm just letting my binocs kick in again, see if we can spot anything over the other side of the rock. There's a Cruiser 3 advancing, so maybe he's going to start getting spots. He has. It's either me spotting or it's him, but it's probably him. But as you can see, I've got a red reticule. I've got an orange reticule here. And not a single shot goes into the rear of an M2 light. So I'm running out of tanks I can kill here. PZ-35, red reticule, absolutely no point in shooting. Light 6C is a tank I can hurt, but I'm on a reload. Oh, there we go. There we go. Still got half a clip. Red reticule, no point. PZ2, red reticule, no point in shooting. So M2 light and a Hago below me. I decide to go for a reload. Move forward, see if I can spot them. T18. A side of a T18, yeah, it's a bit iffy. He's slightly angled, not much chance of penning him. I need to be very, very close, but then I spot a Hago. Rear of a Hago I can hurt. But I pull back. I'm out of ammo again. So M2 Light and a Hago, and now I've got their sides, but chance of me penning, very, very small. I need to hit the commander's hatch on the Hago. M2 Light, not even hitting him. Oh, actually managed to pen the M2 Light. Must have hit a weak spot. So I'm on a reload again. Orange reticule pretty much everywhere. Trying to find a place I can pen the Hago. T18 is advancing, but look at him. He's reversing up the slope. That is a very, very experienced T18 player. For more than one reason. I'm not going to embarrass Drexen by telling everyone how many games he has played in a T18, but let's just say it's his favorite tank. So look at him, he is reversing up the slope so that I have absolutely no chance of penning him. So of course he's being very, very smart. Drexen pretty much only plays the T18 and has no problems firing an all gold ammo. So he's being too clever for me. I've got no chance of killing him from the front. And if I stay here, he's just going to continue advancing. I'm never going to be able to kill him. So I'm kind of debating what I should do, and I decide to go for it and put the speed of this tank to the test. Now, because I'm going uphill, my speed has bled off again, and I'm hoping I'm not going to be spotted, praying I'm not going to be spotted. Need to get behind this guy if I'm going to kill him, but yeah, unfortunately I reckon the light 6C down there spotted me. So we kill him, we're on 5 kills, and that's pretty much how the game ends, because I'm going to speed it up here. And I'm hoping to get the rear of the T18, and I do, but he spots me, he turns. And now I'm taking fire from their spawn. I'm on a reload. Look at that, he's backed up against a wall, so he is practically impenetrable for me. So he comes after me. I desperately need some backup, but my team are too slow in giving me some backup. I'm getting fired on from across the valley. This guy is not going to give me his back or side. He unfortunately kills the Panzerjäger, who was the one tank who was able to help me. I'm getting shot from all sides. Not looking good. And I just don't have the speed or maneuverability to get behind the T18. So there you go. Drexen firing gold ammo in a T18 in an all tier 2 game. And that's pretty much how the game ends. So we'll just speed it up here. I can't get behind him. Can't get around him. So the big question is, if this appears in the shop in the future and you're a tank collector, well, you're going to get this tank anyway. If you currently have it in the garage and you're still split as to whether or not to keep it or get rid of it, well, I'm keeping it because I'm a tank collector. But if I was playing this game for free, the garage slot would probably be worth a little bit more to me than keeping this tank. And the reason is, even though this tank has some really, really nice features, it is fast, it is not the most maneuverable, but it does the job. It can be fun to play. It has special matchmaking. It will only ever see other tier 2s. That's a big factor with this tank. It's not a good crew trainer. It's not a big damage dealer. You're not going to be earning a lot of XP or credits in this tank. You can use it as a scout, but because of the poor penetration on your gun, you're not going to be doing a lot of damage to the targets you're spotting at distance. Again, it's not a good crew trainer because of that low XP gain, but also because the highest tier British light tank in the British tech tree is at tier 5. So, are you really going to be wanting to keep a Crusader and train the Crusader's crew in the Mark 6C? Well, I'm not. There's also the tendency for wargaming to put freebie tanks into very, very expensive packages. So, you're probably going to be looking at spending close to $50, maybe €50, in order to obtain this tank in a future package. Question is, do you want the package, or are you getting the package simply for the tank? It is a very, very expensive package for this little thing if you're going to be willing to spend €50 just to get your hands on it. And there are better alternatives at tier 2. The T2 light tank is a superior tank in almost every single way. This gun does not get premium ammo. You are stuck with your basic ammo. The T2 light, on the other hand, will allow you to load up premium ammo, which will give you 41 penetration. It already has 5 more millimeters of penetration on the basic ammo anyway. It is faster. About the only thing the T2 light doesn't have over the Light 6C is the fact that its view range isn't as good. So is it worth it? Well, if you're looking for a fun tier 2 premium tank to play, the T2 light is definitely the most fun of all the tier 2 light tanks. However, the matchmaking for the T2 light isn't very good. You will find yourself in tier 4 games. The Light 6C is a fun tank. You will only see tier 2 games. And the big question is this tank going to be worth it? Or is this tank worth keeping? I don't think so. Not unless you're a collector. So to sum up, if you're a collector, you're probably going to want to keep this tank. If you're a premium player and you spend money on this game, well, there's no point in selling it. You might as well keep it. It can be fun playing and derping around in Tier 2, especially with that Tier 2 matchmaking. If you're playing this game for free and are not investing any gold into this game, then you're probably going to want to sell it. As I say, it's not a great crew trainer. There are very few good light tanks in the British tech tree to train this crew for. It is not a good credit earner. It's not a good crew XP earner. And you will constantly get one hit killed by T-18s. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.